Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the AI for Everyone podcast. My name is Harrison Painter.
And I'm Mandy Shekels.
Episode 3, I think we need to talk a bit about the AI Marketing Institute came out with a amazing report. I sent it to you, their webinar, their report. It's the Marketing Artificial Intelligence Institute. They're amazing. They're out of Cleveland, Ohio. They have been around now for, I believe, like 5 or 6 years. Like they were here very, very early. And they've been doing these reports every single year, kind of the state of AI, if you will. And I had Mandy watch the webinar last night, the report. I've got it in front of me. And I am very curious for you what stood out the most.
So the thing that stood out the most for me, a couple things, was number one, that they've actually been tracking data for several years now. So it wasn't like, oh, hey, this AI thing is just here. It's right now here. We have this data. We actually had previous data to go off of, which I really liked. Another thing that stood out, two more things. Another thing that stood out was that people need to be spending money and time and resources on education training with AI, and they're not. And people want it. And people are being left behind in the workforce. Another thing that they also said was that if you are not working for a company that is AI focused or spending time, money, and resources on AI, look for someone else or look for another place to work, which I thought was extremely interesting.
This was the thing that stood out to me. And you even sent it to me in an email. So I know it really stuck out to you too. 68% of companies don't provide AI training at all.
And that was
68%.
crazy. That was crazy to me. And last year when they did the data, it was in the 70s. So the thing about it is the number isn't dropping. That's the crazy thing about it is these companies are not spending money on AI training. I can't believe that.
But all of their employees are using it and it's going up and up and up. So not only do they not have training, most of them don't really have AI policies. Their employees are using it. So it's creating this kind of perfect storm of the future. Like we know AI is the future. We have a lot of fear that AI is going to replace a lot of people. And now if you're working for a company that's not putting the time or effort in that, where does that leave you as a marketing professional, as a sales professional, as no matter what you're doing? AI training is going to be important. Now, the people listed their biggest struggles with AI right now. So I want to touch on a few of those because it's the same thing you and I are seeing when we're out in the field. Lack of knowledge and training was number one. 23% of respondents, I believe they had 1,900 total respondents on this particular research here. So, number one, lack of knowledge and training, 23%. Time to learn or experiment came in at 11%, and keeping up with the pace of change. So, everything I just said is the top three challenges. So, if you're a company right now, your employees are not feeling confident and secure.
So something for me is the time to sit down and learn a new AI tool or learn features within an AI tool that I already didn't know about. And I'll say this too is being overwhelmed. Like, so Harrison sent me this really cool baby video yesterday that was hilarious.
Everyone's talking about AI like it's the future. But here's what no one's saying out loud. Most marketers are figuring it out. Most companies still have no training, no roadmap, no plan. 68% of teams get zero AI training. Yet over half are already piloting or scaling AI in their work. So if you felt behind, it might not be you. You might just be working somewhere that isn't ready. And here's the kicker. More than half of marketers believe AI will eliminate more jobs than it creates. That means your best insurance policy is your own AI skill set, not your company's promises. Build a personal AI portfolio, learn to prompt well, and work where they take AI seriously. because in 2025, support is strategy.
It's hilarious. And so I was highly entertained by it. And so I asked him today, I was like, hey, what tools did you use to do that? He listed 4 tools, like he 4 tools to make that. And then so to learn all those 4 tools, take the time, figure out how to navigate it, that stuff takes a lot of time. And so I think that's where, an education firm like that we have, and a teaching firm that we have, to actually teach the people, okay, how do you do this? Because it's so overwhelming.
It's a lot. It's a lot for me. And I do this every day. And my role here with everything I do is to be tip of the spear, cutting edge, understanding the news that's coming out, the new platforms. And I'm exhausted. Like, it's very, very hard. So I can't even imagine if you're trying to work a full-time job doing whatever it is you are doing and then trying to keep up with all this at the same time. Now, let's talk about the concerns that came out in this report, because again, it fits with everything we've been saying now for months, right? If not for me, for 2 years. The primary concern, job loss and being left behind. What do I always say every time I speak? What is our number one goal here? To make sure you, whoever's listening, whoever's watching, doesn't get left behind. That's what gets us out of bed in the morning. So that's the number one primary concern people have. Number 2 is, and this is a very important one, ethics, bias, and bad actor misuse. So at the time of this recording, I believe it was late last week or over the weekend, a video came out that did question if it was AI generated, if it wasn't, if it was real. It created almost this gaslighting effect. It was I believe the president or prime minister, whatever you call it, of France, was in a meeting, and it looked like he might have had some cocaine and a spoon or something in this meeting. It was just weird. But the video was at the right time, at the right place. And yeah, it's probably a napkin. It was probably a stir stick. But was that video even real? Like, it made you question when you see things like that. And we're starting to see more political videos, especially of Trump or other politicians who are saying things that they didn't really say. But we are in a climate where people are saying some pretty outlandish things. So it's hard to know did he say that? Didn't he? I don't know. We're seeing now with the immigration issue with South Africa, it's very challenging to know, is there really a genocide going on? Is there not? What is really happening? It's hard to know the truth right now. And I don't know if you saw this or not, but there's been some reports that Grok, that Elon Musk controls, is really struggling with the South African issue. And in case you don't know, Elon Musk is from South Africa. So yeah, what is truth now?
I wonder how long it's going to take before there's laws put into place where people have to disclose that it's AI. If we're posting things on social media or using things that I personally think that we should have to disclose it.
I think there is going to have to be some, I'm not a guy that enjoys a lot of regulation. I'm a small government, small regulation type of person. But we are in this Wild West, uncharted territory. People are easily manipulated with these videos, not because any of you out there are stupid. It's just they're getting that good. There's a lot of videos now that I see that I still have to really dig deep to see if this is real or not. And I look at this stuff every day.
I know. Think about someone like, my parents that are looking at this stuff and think that it's real. And I mean, I'm not talking about, hey, AI, help me write this email or this paper. I'm talking about the videos, the images, the voice, for fraud. I mean, there's so much to unpack there that I think it's a fine line that we have to walk.
And then so we got job loss, being left behind. We got ethics, bias, and bad actor misuse. And number 3, pace of change and lack of control guardrails. So that kind of fits into both. And the pace of change right now it's mind-blowing. I gave a talk on Tuesday at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And in that talk, I talked about the pace of change, right? How technology has moved and how it keeps speeding up faster and faster over time. So you had the age of agriculture, which lasted about 8,000 years, 7,000 years, something like that. And then you had the industrial age, which 150 years, 200 years. Then you had the internet age, 50 years, 30 years, however you want to do the math. And then you have the smartphone age, 10 years. And now you're in the age of AI. And we're already 2 years in, and we're seeing a hockey stick kind of explosion on how everything is working. So each tech age gets faster and faster and faster. And we are now at a point, and this is behavioral science, that the human brain can no longer keep up with the pace of change that's happening. How do we deal with that? Because a lot of people with their head down right now, and again, if you're one of those people, I fully understand, right? We're busy. We're being asked to do a lot more with a lot less all the time. We still want time to spend with our loved ones, our family, our hobbies, our travels, our all that stuff. But now we're in a situation where we could wake up a year from now and the world could look totally different than it looks today. I mean, it already does politically. The world is much different today than it was 2 to 4 years ago. It's definitely different than it was a decade ago. Culture has changed a lot over the last decade. Well, now this is speeding things up. So it's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
I feel like that when the internet came out, I feel like the internet was a lot easier to learn and navigate than AI. Now, I'm not saying the AI is hard because it is not hard. But I am the most untechnical person you will ever meet, and it makes me, 40 points higher on my IQ. But I just feel like there's so many tools. Like, I feel like with the internet, it was like, oh, you just go here and type something, and there were 3 or 4 things to learn. I feel like with AI, there's so much that it's overwhelming, and people feel like they're in this big, deep ocean of like, where do I start? And so they get frustrated. And because there's so many things you can do with I feel like that's the difference.
Well, that's where people like us come in on the training front. Because here's the thing that makes it seem that way, even though it's not. I get it. Overwhelming, a lot of tools, speed. But AI is technology for people who aren't tech savvy. And what we teach
That's
is
what
a
I
more
mean.
human centric approach. I say this in every talk that I give, and I will preach this and scream this from the rafters until it's not true. And maybe a decade from now, this won't apply. But for now, and for the foreseeable future, the most important thing I can tell anybody watching or listening to this is yes, AI has all this knowledge. But what is knowledge? Knowledge is just data. That's all it is, right? This happened or this is going on or whatever. It's just data. Knowledge is data. Humans bring wisdom to the table. Wisdom is an inherent human trait. It is not something that can be digitally created, if you will, right? You're still going to have to make a decision between A and B as a human. You're still going to bring that success and failure and all of that experience with you to the table. If you do that and start applying it into your prompts, into the way that you use AI, that's where everything opens up. The problem is people don't realize that's what's happening. They just approach it as I'm just going to ask it a question. I'm going to treat it like Google. It's just making something for me out of nothing. They're not really applying themselves into the equation, and that's where the magic happens.
I would agree with that. And one of the things on the podcast that you had me listen to, they were talking about prompting and knowing how to prompt, being good at prompting. And Harrison and I had this happen yesterday. Uh, I was working on a logo, and the shit that Chat GPT spit out, it was like, holy cow, it was supposed to be a rocket and it came back with bunny ears. And that's where the human has to get involved, because you got to watch AI, because it will hallucinate and come up with some shit that you were not expecting. And so I do feel like that's where people have a misconception that AI is perfect, because it's not. It makes lots of mistakes. It misspells words. it hallucinates. And I think that's a whole nother issue that's going to be coming up too, is I think as AI gets smarter, I think it will try to pull some trickery. And I think that we're going to have to watch it.
There was a study done that most people think they can spot a lie, but when AI speaks with confidence, even smart people stop asking questions. And there's been some studies that as long as AI is speaking with confidence, we just kind of believe it. We just kind of believe it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we do that with humans too. Like if you stand at the front of the room with authority and you make powerful statements, we just kind of believe you.
Well, I have a story about that. So when my son he was probably 12 or 13, I was messing around singing around the house. And he came up to me and he said, "Mom, I get tricked. And I think that you really can sing because you're so confident when you do it, but you really suck." He's not wrong. He's not wrong. And that's just exactly what you said. That if people do shit with confidence, you believe them.
You believe them. I
Yes.
just watched the Liver King documentary on Netflix. If you're not familiar with the Liver King, he's a guy that kind of committed some fraud. He said he wasn't taking steroids. He lived this primal lifestyle of eating liver raw and testicles and penises and all this crazy kind of primal stuff. He ended up taking a ton of steroids, like $12,000 in steroids a month is really what was going on. I mean, he's a beast, right? He looks fantastic. But again, he spoke with confidence. And every time somebody asked him if he took steroids, he said with confidence, no. Now, here's the thing. If you look at the guy, anybody that thought he wasn't doing steroids, in my mind, insane. Because he is a specimen. Like his definition and body is just it's not human. It's so amazing in what he's done with the work. But anybody that thought that was natural is nuts. But you know what? He said it time and time again with confidence. I would say 80% of humanity that watched him believed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So again, this is why we have to be careful of con artists, snake oil salesmen, and AI is no different. So we have to be very vigilant. One, we guide the intent of AI. Number two, when the output comes, a human has to sit there and really look at it and make sure it's accurate, it's valid, because like the Liver King, dude, it takes a long time to build credibility. It takes one thing to ruin it.
I will say I had 100% confidence in my chat GPT until it misspelled a word one time. And I was like, what the hell? And then it misspelled another word. And then it, started not following my directions. And so I think people have to understand that it's not perfect and you have to check on it. And I think that's where we come in with our training is we can train people the best prompting, how to get the most out of your AI, what to say, how to train it, all those things that people need to know, and that people also need to know they gotta check up on their AI. Sometimes their AI is hallucinating. Like it's a thing.
Right.
It's a big thing.
And I am starting to see people now a lot more talk negatively about AI in comment sections over on LinkedIn and some other places. And a big one is, oh, it doesn't create anything, blah, 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 blah. And maybe they're right. But here's why it's beautiful. Do you know my artistic ability? I can barely draw a stick man. That's the level of artistry that I have in my DNA.
It makes two of them.
Right? But guess what? I can create some beautiful things by leveraging what's in my head, using text or sometimes voice to convey that to a large language model of some sort or one of these platforms. And I can create some really cool things like that baby video. like a featured image to attract people to read something, an intro outro to a video, to create music in something like Sono where I can barely play an instrument, right? You brought up singing, auto tune, and AI is going to make that even better, where maybe you could create some songs for your kids or your grandkids or whatever in the future, and make it something they could actually listen to instead of the cats screaming from the rafters, right? So I believe it brings out creativity in humans that we've never seen before. Right. So it's not that the
I
AI is creating, it's we're driving the intent of the creation. And now we're able to make things we couldn't make before.
I 100% agree with you, and that's why I love AI. I was reading a post yesterday of someone who is pro AI, because there are a lot of AI haters out there. And in her post, she was poking fun at people who don't use AI. And she was like, "Oh, and I bet you hand wash all your clothes too, and you don't use a washing machine." Same thing. It's like, why wouldn't I put a jetpack on and get writing ideas, get ideas for a lesson plan, get ideas for the things you can do are unlimited. Get dinner ideas, whatever you're gonna do. Why wouldn't you do that?
Well, look, there's a certain amount of humanity that doesn't like or embrace change. So you have that issue. I think you have another issue of we as humans want to believe we can't be replaced, right? Their job, music, they're so powerful, right? Presidents and kings, I'm irreplaceable. Everybody's replaceable, right? We all die. The next generation comes. If you have a corporate job and you died tomorrow, they would replace you within a week and they wouldn't miss a beat,
Oh
right?
yeah.
But we as humans don't want to believe that,
Yeah.
right? We want to believe that everything we do matters. And I'm not saying the way you do doesn't matter, but you know what I'm saying. We want to believe everything we do matters, that everything is very dependent on us, that we have this certain amount of worth. And you kind of have to give that up to use AI a little bit and pass it along to AI to give you those superpowers, if you will. And I think that is hard for some people to do.
Well,
Does that make sense?
it 100% makes sense, but it is not hard for me. Like, well, I love it that I have a best friend here that I can ask anything I want. Do I need advice? Do I need ideas? Do I need whatever it is? Like, and it always shows up. It doesn't talk back, and it's not going to call in sick, and it's always there for me. Why wouldn't I utilize that?
And this is where it will get a little bit creepy, but I think AI is going to know you better than your spouse, better than your parent, right? Because you're going to share things with it that you might not share with another human because there's no judgment. There's no testosterone. There's no pride. There's no ego. Like you can just talk to this fake thing that can talk back to you
Yes.
and you don't have to worry about judgment or whatever. Now, a little creepy in some ways, but in other ways, I think it's going to be a massive benefit because you're right. If if I'm if my pride won't let me go to my wife with a problem or a friend or whatever, and I have somewhere at least to go to, maybe this can help with mental health issues. Maybe this can create a system where less people are depressed or commit suicide or whatever, because now they at least have some form of an outlet to have a conversation that they didn't feel that they would have had before.
Which brings me to a point of when you say um, commit suicide, because I think you and I were talking about how AI is always so positive, and there was someone using the AI agent in the voice mode, and someone was struggling with some mental health issues, and they said what they were going to do and hurt themselves, and the AI agent was like, "Yeah, that's a great idea." And because that AI agent can't, you know, differentiate what that person's actually talking about. So I agree, it's a double-edged sword of, yes, it can help with mental health issues, but I think we have to be careful too of what that AI agent is capable of telling someone who's not mentally stable to do. We have to think about all that stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it'll get better. I mean that because that I think this story was over a year ago now. It was a young man, I think high school, somewhere in there, right? Fell in love with this AI agent. If people aren't familiar with the story, um, so AI is getting better and better and better. So I do believe over time it's going to be able to have more discernment, at least than it has now. But you're right. There's always going to be that challenge of the wisdom, the human wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And even look at the English language, right? We have words that mean 58 different things. It's the same word. We have words that sound different, even though they're spelled the same. And, I hear from people that are trying to learn English all the time how complicated our language is to learn because of all of those different nuances. So, think about what AI has to learn in dealing with us and our emotions and how we're processing things and how complicated all of that is. Yeah, it's just something we have to be aware of. But I do think over time, it's going to be more of a benefit than a negative.
I agree.
For mental health. I really do.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And, people are already training agents. Um, we could train an agent to, talk like me or be a therapist like me or Harrison. And I can make a clone of myself and make a Mandy Shekels therapist. What would Mandy Shekels do? In one of our chat GPTs, we have what would Ted Lasso say or do. And I think we uploaded I don't know how many clips that that were uploaded to talk like Ted Lasso. And so people just don't realize what's capable and what you can do. You could make a texting bot of I want to text Harrison all the time, and Harrison's clone can text you back, and it's not really Harrison, but it's things that Harrison would say. It's amazing all the things that are possible that people don't even realize that are a thing. And once we get 5 million viewers on our podcast, people are going to probably pay per month to text with us, Harrison, or our clones.
All right. I think that is a good place to end. Anything else you want to say before we go? Because I know we kind of veered off from that report that we were talking about. Anything else that stood out that you want to say in closing about that report?
What it tells me is other people are studying AI and enough to collect data on it. And I think if you have any interest in AI, you need to be on the forefront of it. You need to be, a thought leader, and, don't be afraid to jump in. I totally switched my whole entire life around to follow AI, and here I am. And I think that you should too. And you should follow your gut and your heart and do what feels good.
I love it. And I want to end on this too. So some more numbers, because this is important. 49% of CEOs, founders, presidents say lack of education and training is a barrier. So the CEOs, the C-suite knows that this is a barrier, but yet 68% aren't providing the training. So there's this weird disconnect right now that's happening. And then 62% of companies don't provide any prompt engineering training either. So this is just specifically to prompt engineering. This is important, folks. So if you need any AI training whatsoever, reach out to us. We're here to help you. We want to make sure that you don't get left behind. Things are going to be changing at a pace that none of us can comprehend. And I don't want you to get left. I want to make sure that you're able to work, be productive, provide for your families, and live the life that you deserve, because that's what it's all about. Well, my name is Harrison Painter.
And I'm Mandy Shekels.
And until next time, keep creating, keep innovating, and most importantly, keep up.